If I am my own answer, and you see this in East, you see this in, by the way, New Age, that's what's below all these things in New Age. You are your own answer. You are the divine. If you're your own answer, then how come you have problems? I mean, if I have to go to a yoga class to get together with myself, it's easier and cheaper just to stay home with myself and call it a night, There's no distinction between subject and object. There's a Beatles song that had to be influenced by this which goes, I am he as you are me, and we are all together. Well, what do you do? That's called confusion. You are not the other one. He, I am. If you are God, then how can you ever find God or know God? If there's no other, what are you worshiping? You're worshiping yourself. And that is the stark reality of all this stuff. It's ultimately worshiping oneself. If you need to find the truth, and we all do, but if they're saying that you're God, then God needs to find the truth. That means God needs to find God. He needs a track to come to God. God needs, therefore, to be saved, which is crazy. God needs to be enlightened. God has amnesia according to this. If you are the truth, there's no truth to find. You can't find something that you are. And if you're supposed to meditate on God, you're not meditating on God, because if you think you are God, there's nothing happening there. And if you are God, you better be content with who you are, because it's not going to get any better than that. Really, I mean, think about it, the whole thing, and this, by the way, it's not just those who are in it, and I'm not trying to make a lot of people this is what they're born into, and we need to pray for them. But it's not just that. It's permeated the culture, and even in ways, becomes New Age, and then it gets even more permeated where you don't even know it's New Age, but it's just part of the God in you, you're the divine you, You are the answer, yes we can. We are the ones we've been waiting for. What? And what is the goal of all this? The goal is called nirvana. You've heard it. Now, when you think of nirvana, you think, well, you probably don't know a lot about it. You probably think it's this nice, kind of Club Med thing. It's like this sort of version of paradise, all that. Not really. Nirvana means the extinguishing of the soul. It's like the blowing out of the flame. Because the goal of all this is to extinguish the soul so that you're back as the cosmic oneness, the Brahman. That's what it's about. And so you're supposed to lose yourself. How do you even do that? How do you lose yourself by yourself? If you're self, if the problem is being selfishness, how do you do anything if you're starting from selfishness? How can the self do anything good? Unless you need another self. I mean, you need a bigger, higher self. USA Today spoke of Deepak Chopra, and this is not about him. This is the contradiction of it. We should pray for him and all. And it said that he was filing a $10 million lawsuit against I'm not sure if it was USA Today or something. And I think, wait a minute, because they defamed him. They said something. Wait a minute. If your self is an illusion, why are you worried about your reputation? I mean, it should be helping you to, quote, die to self. So he said his answer was, they asked him, why are you doing a $10 million lawsuit? Because they said something, you're supposed to be, his quote was, maybe I should be enlightened enough to say it doesn't matter, but he's suing anyway. If everything is an illusion, how can you be passionate about anything? It leads to a passionlessness. It leads to an apathy. So in India, you had the killing of children. You had infanticide. You had the burning of widows when a husband died. You had children raised as temple prostitutes. All sorts of degradation of human life, because that's what it ultimately goes to. You might think if everybody is God, then human life should be precious. Not so at all. Because the idea is human life is just an illusion, ultimately, to be nullified. Nullified. They speak about it, it's empowering to say you're God. It's not empowering to say you're God. Aside from it being blasphemy, if you say that God is the world and the world is God, you're giving up all hope. Because if the world is God, then there's nothing to save the world anymore. If the world is God, then then God would be evil. God would have problems. Then there's nothing to save it. There's no hope. There's nothing more than what you see. In other words, let me put it this way. It's like, say you are drowning. You're drowning, and you need a lifeguard. And the person says, oh, hey, I got good news for you. You say, well, are you the lifeguard? I said, no. But I have good news for you. You're the lifeguard. But I'm drowning. Well, if you're drowning and you're the lifeguard, you're in trouble. It might feel good for a moment. Hey, I'm the lifeguard, but you're drowning. That means you actually have nobody to save you, because if you're the lifeguard's drowning, nobody's saved. So in the same way, it may feel good that people tell other people, they teach this, you are God. Well, it might feel good for a moment, but it does nothing for you. All it does is eliminate all hope. Because if you're the answer, you're in trouble. Because you still don't know how to swim and you're going down. You say, I'm a lifeguard going down. Up to that point, you might have had hope that there was a lifeguard who knew how to swim. But the same way, you see, when you think you're divine by yourself, you think you're deity, you think that you may feel good, but you still have the same problem, but now it's worse because you've got no answer. God is drowning. So here is the ultimate thing behind all these things you've heard. All these things. In order to be saved, you need someone who is higher than you. You need someone who's not in the pit, someone who can take you out of the pit. He can come into the pit, take you out of it. It says he lifted me out of the pit and set my feet on a rock. If you think you're God, and by the way, it's not just Eastern, because man's nature, ever since the garden, man thinks he's God. Even if he doesn't say it, even if he says he's a Christian, still the idea, how does that lie get in there? When you act as if you're the center of the universe. You might say, I believe in God, but if you're acting like you're the center of the universe, you're saying you're God. If your main thing in life is to serve yourself, you're saying you're God. If your main thing is to say, I'm interested, my main thing is to get ahead, my main thing is to lift myself up, exalt, well, you're saying you're God. Because you're exalting yourself instead of God. So even though we say, listen, this lie is all over. But if you think you're God in Eastern faith, how can you ever change yourself? How can you ever die to self if you're God? God doesn't change. If you think that you're the heart of the existence, how can you ever overcome anything? If you believe everything is God, then it means your problems are God too. How can you overcome them? That means your sin is God. How are you going to be freed of sin? If you think you're your own God, you're in big, big trouble.
To find out how you can receive more of Jonathan's teachings, to receive special free gifts, or get in touch, go to hopeoftheworld.org or call toll-free 1-800-YESHUA-1. That's hopeoftheworld.org. or call 1-800-YESHUA-1. That's 1-800-937-4821. You can also get more at Jonathan Cahn's Facebook page or write us direct at Hope of the World, Box 1111, Lodi, New Jersey 07644, USA. Hope of the World is dedicated to the goal of spreading God's Word and salvation to every land and people. We do this by spreading the Word throughout the world and sponsoring compassion projects to the most poor and needy around the earth. To get in touch or have a part in God's work, just write to Hope of the World, Box 1111, Lodi, New Jersey 07644, USA. Or go to hopeoftheworld.org or call 1-800-YESHUA-1. That's 1-800-937-4821.